Separation of substances. In nature, we find most of the substances mixed with some other substances. We need to separate them before use. For example, rice, pulses and grains are cleaned before cooking by the method of hand picking. Cleaning is done to remove any tiny stones, insects, etc. In our daily life, we use many methods to clean substances before we eat or cook. Need to separate substances. Taking out useful substances from a mixture is usually the main reason for the separation of substances. However, there are many other reasons to separate the substances from mixtures. To remove harmful and unwanted substances. We use different mixtures which contain many harmful substances, so their proper separation is necessary. Few examples where we need to remove harmful and unwanted substances. The water supply to our homes is not clean, so before supplying, it is cleaned and treated by the municipal authorities. Wheat and other grains we get from our farms are not clean. They may contain many stones and other unwanted things. To get useful components from a mixture like crude oil or petroleum is very useful and called black gold. This crude oil is redefined to get petrol, diesel and kerosene. These are all very useful items. Methods used to separate mixtures. Mixture contains 2 or more types of substances. In some mixture, we can easily see the impurities. For example, wheat grains and stones, sugar and sand, sand and iron nails. Method of separation depends on the constituents of the mixture. If mixture is liquid, then it is not easy to separate its components. For example, separation of sugar from sugar syrup or salt from salt water. Therefore, the separation of substances needs different techniques to be used. Separation of solids from solids. We use several methods to separate solid impurities from solid substances. Hand picking. Hand picking is the method of separating unwanted solid substances from the useful solids by hand. It is an easy way to separate undesirable substances from food items. For example, at home, your mother cleans dal and rice before cooking. She removes the pieces of stones, etc. by hand picking. But this method is used in certain specific conditions only. For example, if undesirable or substances are present in small amount, if undesirable substances differ from the useful ones in color, size and shape, if the quantity of mixture is less, it cannot be applied with huge amount. Sieving. We separate the components of a mixture by sieving, which are of various sizes. The fine components pass through the sieve and the bigger components remain on it. In our kitchen, we separate bigger particles from wheat flour, besan, suji, etc. In construction sites, a sieve with bigger pores is used to separate sand from pebbles. Threshing. This process of separating grains from the stalks is called threshing. The grains are attached to the stalk when harvested. The harvested crop is collected at one place in bundles. Then threshing can be done by any one of the method mentioned below. Beating the stalks to free the grains, by allowing animals like bullocks to trample the stalks, using threshing machine. Winnowing. Winnowing is a method used to separate lighter components from heavier components with the help of wind. The method is used to separate grains from husk. In manual method of winnowing, the farmers drop the mixture of wheat and husk from a height. The dry outer covering of grains is called husk, which is lighter than grains. While winnowing, the husk particles are carried away by the wind. The heavier grains fall near the place of winnowing. Husk is light and makes separate pile. It is very useful as it is used as fodder. Nowadays, modern combine harvester machine is used by the farmers. The machine harvests, threshes and winnows all at a time. Separation of insoluble solids from liquids. Some solid impurities are insoluble in water. We separate them by following some methods. Sedimentation. Sedimentation is a process in which heavier insoluble particles settle down at the bottom. The solid particles settled at the bottom are called sediments. If we take muddy water in a glass and keep it for some time undisturbed, the mud settles at the bottom by the process of sedimentation. Decantation. Decantation is a process of pouring out the clear water slowly into another container without disturbing the sediment. This process is used after sedimentation. Filtration. Filtration is the process by which two fine, insoluble substances are separated by using filter paper. For example, we use strainer for filtering tea. In this process, the insoluble solid particles are retained in the filter and liquid passes through it. The liquid obtained after filtration is called filtrate. In laboratories, we use filter paper for filtration. Loading. If the particles of an insoluble solid in a liquid are very fine, they take a long time to settle. Loading is the process of making these very fine particles, like dust in water, heavier so that they can settle fast. It actually makes the sedimentation process faster. The water from ponds, rivers, or lakes is muddy. They contain very fine suspended particles that do not settle easily. To separate them by decantation, these particles are loaded by the alum. A small piece of alum is suspended in water. Alum dissolves in water easily. The dissolved pieces of alum loads the lighter dust particles. These loaded particles sediment faster and then can be decanted. Separation of soluble solids from liquids. Some solid impurities remain soluble in water. We cannot separate them by using common methods. The methods used to separate them are: evaporation. The process of converting liquid into vapor form by heating is called evaporation. The process of evaporation takes place continuously in nature, wherever water is present. For example, take water in a beaker. Add sugar or salt and boil it. Let all the water evaporate. After some time, you will get the crystals of sugar or salt all at the bottom of the beaker. Condensation. The process of condensation of water vapor into liquid form is called condensation. When we boil water in a vessel and cover it with plate, we find the water droplets under the plate. The water vapor gets condensed into liquid form. Separating immiscible liquids. Some liquids do not mix with each other. For example, cooking oil and water. When mixed with each other, they form separate layers. Their layers can be separated by decantation or using separating funnel. Use of more than one method of separation. One mixture that has more than components requires more than one method of separation. For example, if the preparation of sugar, the processes like filtration, centrifugation, evaporation and crystallization, etc. are used. Similarly, for getting pure salt from the water, the processes like evaporation, filtration and crystallization are used. Solubility of substances. Many substances dissolve in water and form a solution. The substance that dissolves is called solute and the liquid in which it dissolves is called solvent. The mixture of solute and solvent is called solution. Solution are of two types according to the solubility: unsaturated solution and saturated solution. The solution in which more solute can be dissolved at a given temperature is called unsaturated solution. The solution in which no more solute can be dissolved at a given temperature is called saturated solution. The maximum amount of solute which is needed to make a saturated solution in a given liquid is called solubility. The solubility of a solution can be increased by heating. By heating, a saturated solution can be changed to unsaturated solution.